For a moment, I would like you to close your eyes and imagine two scenarios. First, envision a junior or senior in high school like yourself, working their summer job at McDonald's, making the federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, or assuming the worker lives in Connecticut, we'll say $10.10. Next, picture a middle-aged woman working full-time, also earning a minimum wage salary. All right, you can open your eyes. You're probably wondering why I've asked you to think about these two people who have nothing in common except for their hourly wages. Well, to be frank, the minimum wage in the United States is far too low, and this needs to change now. One of the most prevalent arguments against an increase is that minimum wage jobs are mostly filled by either teenagers, people between professions, or perceived burnouts. However, the statistics prove that this perception of who minimum wage workers tend to be is quite contrary to reality. In fact, less than 10% of these people are teenagers, and more than half are prime-age adults between the ages of 25 and 54. According to the Economic Policy Institute, the typical worker who would benefit from a $15 minimum wage is a 36-year-old woman with college-level coursework who works full-time. Additionally, the average worker with a spouse or child who would benefit from an increased minimum wage provides 64% of his or her family's total income. Minimum wage jobs are crucial to the lives of many people in this country. This is often overlooked, and people continue to suffer in poverty. Unfortunately, despite how many people depend on these jobs, the federal minimum wage has continued to dwell at $7.25 since 2009, differing state by state. This leads me to my next point, cost of living. By 2024, in areas all across the United States, a single adult without children is projected to need at least $31,200 to achieve a modest but adequate standard of living. This is the amount that a worker earning $15 would make. Yet this is only this average salary necessary. Workers in costlier areas and those with children would need even more, as the EPI reported. Prospect.org projects that in rural Missouri, a single adult without children will need $32,502 by 2024 to cover typical rent, food, transportation, and other basic living costs. This would translate to $15.63 an hour. In larger metro areas of the South and Southwest, where the majority of the southern population lives, a single adult without children will also need even more than $15 by 2024 to get by. $16.65 in Fort Worth, $16.54 in Phoenix, and $18.40 in Miami. And finally, in more expensive regions of the country, a single adult without children will need far more than $15. $25.53 in New York City, $20.47 in Los Angeles, and $24.71 in Washington, D.C. So if $15 an hour may not even be enough to meet the cost of living, how can $7.25 or even $10.10 be viewed as sufficient? Why should hardworking citizens be denied stable living conditions or the ability to support children? This begins to encroach upon an entire other issue, quality of life. When I asked you to imagine the two scenarios earlier and address cost of living, you may not have thought about how exactly these people were living. U.S. News reports that the United States is ranked a whopping 17th in the world for quality of life. Considering America's usual desire to act as an example for other countries, this is genuinely disheartening. That is why it is important that we call for a change in this area. By increasing the federal minimum wage to $15, we would have a significant effect on the poverty in the United States. Consequently, the quality of living would improve as well. A 2013 study by University of Massachusetts Amherst economist Dr. Arindrat Dubey estimated that increasing the federal minimum wage to just $10.10 is projected to reduce the number of non-elderly living in poverty by around 4.6 million or 6.8 million when longer-term effects are accounted for. Imagine the effect that a $15 minimum wage would have upon the country. A great deal of Black and Hispanic people live in impoverished inner cities struggling to get by. If the federal minimum wage were raised, 40% of African Americans and 34% of Latinos would get a raise. I recognize that it may feel ironic taking the suggestion for a higher federal minimum from me. I'm just another 18-year-old who works a minimum wage job in the summer. However, I'm not in support of an increase for personal gain. I want to help the millions and millions of Americans who are stuck below the poverty line in this country. The majority of the workers who earn the minimum wage are not kids like me. Furthermore, $7.25 or even $10.10 are not adequate to meet basic living standards. And regardless, none of you, your loved ones, or anyone in this country should have to scrape by with a low quality of life. In America, we must raise the minimum wage to $15, setting a precedent for all people, and to help make our nickname a reality, the land of opportunity. Thank you.